I get really hangry if I don't eat.
They get grumpy. They both do. Hannah does too if they do not have dinner before we record.
See, we normally start recording at 7, and sometimes I don't eat till after, because if I eat before, all of a sudden my stomach's making noises, and I'm like, I hope my mic didn't pick that up.
Oh, that's way too late. I mean, mine has been doing it all night, so hopefully the mic doesn't pick it up.
Yeah, we used to, we always record either at 5 or 6 o'clock our time, and we used to eat after because I own my own landscape company and I get home at all different times of the day. And sometimes I'll get home, we set up real quick and we start recording, but we've made it a mandatory thing that we have to eat before.
I don't want to put up with their shit.
I get super hangry.
It's true.
I understand.
So does my husband, trust me. Like, you know what? You need a Snickers bar. Go away until you eat that.
Yes. Like, don't talk to me until you have some food in your stomach.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've seen him.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jess.
And I'm Hannah.
Join us as we delve into true crime, paranormal encounters, and all things spooky.
So grab your flashlight and get ready to wander into the darkness with us.
This is Wicked Wanderings.
Hello, Jessica.
And do I dare say hello, Rob?
Hello.
And we have some special guests tonight.
Yay!
Woo woo! We have the girls from Dark Mysteries. We have Christina and Jesse joining us today.
Hello.
So thanks, guys. You get to hear about me ramble.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, anytime. Like I said, every week.
And yes, people, we have other friends. Surprisingly.
Somehow, it has happened. Oh, all right, let's get going. Got a good one today. And it is local.
How local?
Northampton.
Ooh.
Yes.
That's really local.
Yes.
That's like 30 minutes north of us.
Yes. So I know as podcasters, we all love a good serial killer story, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I know, Hannah, you love some Ted Bundy.
I do like some Ted Bundy.
Yes. I don't know. Is it weird to ask if you guys have a favorite serial killer?
There are
so many to pick from.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think, well, out of all the cases we've done, I think Peter Sutcliffe has been my favorite.
Ooh, I don't even know who that is.
I don't think so either.
He was the Yorkshire Ripper.
Oh, okay. I know the Yorkshire Ripper. I just didn't know his real name.
He was brutal. Very brutal.
Yeah.
And I don't know what attracts us to the more brutal, the better. I don't understand it, but...
And then we listen to it before we go to bed and sleep like a baby.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yes. Yep.
That's what I fall asleep to.
I never listened to any of this stuff before we started doing the podcast back in September. And now Hannah says, oh, yeah, I turned you into a monster because I'm like, oh, did you hear about this? Did you hear about this one? Oh, my God.
We do have a lot of friends at work and stuff that since we started doing this, they definitely, hey, you should do an episode on this and you should do this.
Yes. I
always love a good recommendation.
Yeah, same. I always liked to learn about them and why they did what they did personally, like how they became who they became. But for the most part, a majority of the serial killers have been men. Hannah, can you name one serial killer that's female?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm so disappointed in you. Do you guys know?
I'm like, I got one.
All right.
What about Lavinia Fisher?
See, I wasn't even thinking of her.
Who are you thinking of?
Eileen Wuornos.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
She worked as a prostitute and killed 7 of her clients.
Okay, yep, that's the one I was going to say.
Yes.
Oh, wow, I really am very disappointed in myself right now.
I am too.
Have you seen that movie with Charlize Theron?
Yeah, Monster. I think I saw a long time ago, but
Oh,
I don't
Monster that had
Charlize Theron.
Yeah, but hold,
Google.
please. Yeah.
Go
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm like, do I need to wait?
No.
So I have a story tonight that is about someone who could quite possibly be the most prolific serial killer of all time. Authorities believe that that's right, she may have killed up to 80 people. But she was only charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder, and 2 counts of attempted murder. Oh, and a charge for falsifying a bomb threat.
Oh, I'm so curious.
Yeah.
Throw that on there.
Yeah, this woman, she was a little unhinged, let's say.
Christina Ricci.
Who I was gonna say.
Oh.
Is this the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know she was in it.
Oh, I think she plays the girlfriend.
Yes. And didn't the main character, she had to gain a lot of weight to do that movie.
Oh, probably.
Anyways, fun fact.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
I love fun facts. I actually do. Anyway, so this woman is a piece of work, and she did it in our own backyard, and I have actually been to where she committed these murders and didn't even know it.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Where?
Northampton.
Yeah.
Really?
Get there.
You said where?
I'll get there. Who is this murderous Duchette Canoe, you ask? Get
I
it?
do ask.
Duchette. Get it? See what I did there? Her name is Kristen Gilbert, a registered nurse who worked at the Veterans Medical Center in Northampton, Massachusetts.
My stepmother works there.
Does she?
Yeah.
Where does she work?
The VA.
The psych department.
Is it
In
in
Northampton.
Northampton?
She's in psych.
Oh, jeez. Anywho, I may have run into her because I was just there the other day. Anyway, moving on. Kristen was born Kristen Heather Strickland in November 13th, 1967 in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Fall River.
Yes.
Next to Lizzie Borden.
Mm-hmm. I did tell you that there's a small link to Lizzie. I know you are
Oh, yeah. I'm a big Lizbeth fan.
big Lesbeth.
Us too.
Yes.
We just haven't done an episode yet.
Yes. Oh, so interesting. Maybe you guys can come out to Massachusetts and we can go do a live episode at that house overnight.
That would be awesome.
We've been talking for a while about traveling and doing episodes at different locations like that.
Yes.
You guys can come here and we'll go to the Stanley.
Yes. Yes.
We're only like 45 minutes away.
I'm a huge Shining fan, so that just...
We can. Southwest has cheap tickets to Denver. Just saying.
Throwing that out there.
Sold.
Sold. Yes. Okay.
Didn't you do an episode at your restaurant?
Yes, we did. And we do have a few different ghosts in our restaurant, and we get activity on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to come see your restaurant too.
It's kind of a little unnerving sometimes to be by yourself.
Oh, I can imagine.
Sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
But I've worked there for 18 years, so I'm used to it, but it's still not fun.
Interesting.
I want to go to your restaurant too. Okay. I get sidetracked so easily. So she was born in Fall River, Massachusetts. She was a gifted student and a member of the math club. Apparently that's important information. In her teens, however, she became known as somewhat of a habitual liar and was prone to some neurotic behavior. It was during this time, Hannah, that she used to tell people that she was related to Lizzie Borden.
Really?
And she loved the attention that brought her. She would tell people she was related to Lizzie Borden.
Interesting.
Yeah. But there was no record of her being related. Yeah, she obviously wasn't related to your Lizbeth. She graduated high school when she was 16 years old, which is
impressive.
Wow, okay, yeah,
All
that
right.
is impressive. I'll give her that.
I mean, math club, come on.
Right? Good point. Good point. She first went to Bridgewater State College in 1984, where she experienced a couple psychiatric episodes, and she made violent threats to others, but also threatened self-harm. She once left an ex-boyfriend a note claiming to have eaten glass
What the hell?
and lied about a suicide attempt. I mean, that would be the first thing I would think of to do to get back at a guy.
Right? I mean,
Glass?
I'm going to eat glass and make him come take care of me.
not painful or anything.
Be like, you need to go to the hospital.
Yeah, no man is worth eating glass.
No.
So we are already seeing in her late teens and early 20s a pattern that would continue through the rest of her life. Kristen then continued her college career at Greenfield Community College in 1988 and became a nurse. She then met her husband, Glenn Gilbert, around this time, and they ended up getting married in 1989 and started working at the VA the same year. And the couple would go on to have 2 kids. Tender. Oh.
Heart emoji.
It is. The VA in Northampton, or Leeds, Massachusetts, if you want to get technical, has served the health needs of veterans since 1924. The whole compound resembles a military base rather than a full facility hospital. So one of the sources I used for this episode is the book Perfect Poison by M. William Phelps, who was the same author you used for your last episode. Yeah.
Good writer. Got it.
Yes. So if you guys want a full view of how crazy this woman was, read that book, because I wanted to talk about it all in this episode, but we would be here till midnight because she literally is crazy.
And she had access to medication, and oh my God.
Yeah.
Bad
Which
combination.
made her crazier.
So definitely read Perfect Poison by M. William Phelps. And it was published...
Amazon.
Do it. It's also on Kindle Unlimited.
Oh, sorry. What's it called again?
Perfect Poison.
Okay, thank you.
And it was published in 2003, so some of the information regarding the facility and the specific building is going to be different. It is currently being remodeled, and I was there the other day. And half of the bottom floor, which was the emergency portion, is blocked off, so who knows what it's going to look like.
Interesting.
Yeah. But the ward that we're going to talk about and the ICU is no longer in that building anyway. So sorry about that little rant. But the hospital at the time provided tertiary, psychiatric, and substance use services, as well as primary and secondary levels of medical care to the veteran population of men and women in Western Massachusetts. At that time, of 85,000 men and women of Western Mass and 600,000 veterans statewide. That was 12% of the population of Massachusetts at the time, and they had a 197-bed medical center that specialized in PTSD and chronic mental illness. And they even still, to this day, have long-term placements for veterans there as well. Just for a little insight to what we're looking at. And like I said, Kristen started working there in 1989, and she was considered one of the most intelligent nurses on the ward.
That's scary.
Yeah, and
But aren't the crazy ones a lot of times they're pretty intelligent?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, look at Ted Bundy.
I was just going to say that.
Guy was brilliant.
He was. She was the best that the VA had to offer as far as codes or cardiac emergencies were concerned. But I mean, I'm pretty sure she did love to tell people that as well, because when they were in,
She was a habitual liar.
yeah. And possibly narcissistic. You know, she likes the grandiose and talking herself up. But she did build a stellar reputation for being the go-to nurse. And many coworkers even said that she excelled during medical emergencies, that she had no problem keeping her mind focused during the chaos. However, Kristen was about to fuck that all up.
I guess we wouldn't have an episode if she didn't, right?
Also true. Also true. In the late summer of 1995, some of the other nurses began to notice that there were a higher number of deaths during Kristen's 4 to midnight shift. They jokingly began to call her the Angel of Death, which I don't know about you, but I would not want to be called that, even as a joke, especially in a hospital.
No, not at all.
Nope.
I'd be like, yeah, so don't fuck with me, okay?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think they knew at that time how close they were to the truth. The VA Medical Center had many different wards throughout the complex, and Ward C, the ward Kristen worked in, was in Building 1, which is the main building. So, I should have drawn you a map, because I know
like
you
a
love
map.
it. I know you love visuals. But the entire ward was shaped like the letter T. The top of the T had a 4-bed ICU, and a short hallway between the ICU and the L-shaped nurses station. So have fun figuring that out. So Ward C had about 30 beds, and it was split up into teams, and the workload was divided among the nurses. At one point during her career, and this was after she had her second child, Kristen began an affair with one of the security guards, James Perrault.
Oh.
La-di-da.
Scandalous.
Well, that's where all the problems always start.
It started as most affairs do, with innocent flirting at work, drinks with coworkers after work, drinks alone after work, a stolen kiss here and there, and then the point of no return. I wrote that, and I was like, it sounds like I'm talking from experience.
I was just gonna say that.
But I'm not. I'm not, okay? I was in the military, and I was around it a lot, but I'm not. Damn it. Good thing my husband doesn't listen to it, because he'd be suspicious.
We love you, Dave.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Anywho. Sorry.
They're never coming back on our podcast.
No.
Oh my god, I love this. Like, so we're going to do this next week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Every week now. Anyway, her marriage to Glenn was going downhill, and they were headed towards divorce.
No.
What? Kristen would eventually move out of the home she shared with her husband and 2 kids and get an apartment closer to Perrault.
Where did her kids stay?
With her husband. He got custody. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, adultery is a crime. So
Yes. Especially in the military. You can get in trouble
Really?
for adultery, yeah.
Like, are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
100%. You didn't know that?
Are you guys messing with me?
No, I'm dead serious.
Like, what kind of trouble?
Like, you could lose rank.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know that.
So, the beginning of her downfall began with 66-year-old Korean War Army veteran Stanley Jagodowski. He had a reputation of being a pain in the ass. According to Phelps' Imperfect Poison, that is not my opinion or my thoughts, in the 8 months prior to his final admission to the VA in July of 1995, he had been admitted 3 times because of the sores on his feet had become unbearable. He suffered from non-insulin dependent diabetes and high blood pressure. He had enlarged heart ventricles and an irregular heartbeat. In his most recent admission in April 1995, after an ongoing infection, he had to have his right foot removed. Diabetes is no joke.
No, it's
Diabetes.
not.
I'm type 1 diabetic, so...
Are you?
Oh.
But if this guy was non-insulin dependent, which means he could have controlled it all with diet,
Yeah.
he just had problems.
Yep. And it talked about more about that in the book. I didn't think it was... I mean, I'm already at 12 pages, so I had to cut some somewhere.
Right. No,
But
I get it.
talked about his eating habits while in the hospital. So 3 months later, on July 17th, the infection had spread to his right leg, and it was removed just above the knee.
Ouch. Wow.
Yeah.
Yummy.
So this guy had his fair share of health problems, right? Well, by August 21st, 1995, things started to look up for Stanley. He was not only feeling better, but also looked healthier than he had in years, so the amputation seemed to have worked. He had been free of injectable medicines for the past week. So remember that part. That's important. Free of injectable medicines.
Got it.
At 7 p.m. that night, Stanley received 3 puffs of albuterol and was reported to be alert. His breath sounds were clear. He was in no distress. His color was good and showed no adverse reactions to the respiratory treatment. When the nurses got him ready for bed, they checked his IV. He had no body swelling or graying of the skin due to lack of oxygen, and he was reported stable at 8:20 p.m. So, I'm just giving you this background to show what his status was before Kristen Gilbert entered the room. A short time later, Kristen came down the hallway holding a syringe in one hand, alcohol swab in the other, heading to Stanley's room. Once again, he was not supposed to be receiving any injectables. The other nurses that had been working with Stanley knew he wasn't supposed to be receiving meds, but sometimes doctors would order medication without letting the entire nursing staff know, so they just assumed Gilbert was on her way to give him a shot that had been ordered. However, less than a minute later, at 8:40, there was a piercing scream coming from Stanley's room. Ouch! Stop! Stop! You're killing me! You don't like my dramatization?
I'm just trying to... I'm sitting here thinking, what is she injecting him with?
We will get there. Just then, Gilbert walked out of the room and made her way up the hallway in an uneventful manner, like nothing had happened. Just nonchalant. The nurses rushed to his room to check on him, and he said his arm hurt, but that he was okay, so the nurses continued with their rounds. There was no reason for him to be on a heart monitor because he did not have any heart problems that would necessitate a monitor. But minutes later, at 8:43, Stanley went into sudden cardiac arrest. Then his heart stopped. There was some miscommunication between nurses, and Kristen forgot, in quotations, to pass along the pager for codes to the nurse that relieved her before she went into the ICU. So it was a few minutes before anyone got to him.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And they eventually were able to bring Stanley back to life, and he was put on a ventilator and transferred to the ICU at 9 p.m. And this is where his real troubles began. Stanley coded again while in the ICU, and after coding a third time, died at 11:38 p.m.
Poor Stanley.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah. Going to fight for his country, and then he comes home and dies at the hospital by the hands of a killer nurse. Anyway.
Dun, 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 dun.
Right. Kristen's next victim wasn't a veteran, but her husband, Glenn.
Oh.
I never saw that one coming.
Never.
No. So by November of 1995, spoiler alert, he survives. But Kristen's marriage had been deteriorating, and she'd been bumping uglies with one security guard. James Cross. You ever heard that term?
No.
Bumping uglies.
It just makes it so gross.
Kristen had... I know. Well, when thinking about them, it can be gross.
Yeah.
Kristen hadn't moved out of the house yet, and when Glenn came home from work on November 5th, 1995, he felt sicker than he had in years. He had flu-like symptoms. He was sweaty, pale, and nauseous. Getting worse as the night went on, he called Kristen, and she came home from work and took him to the ER. They drew blood, and the doctors told him that his potassium level had dropped to a critically low level and that his heart was beating irregularly.
So does that mean he just needs to eat more bananas?
I guess. Exhibiting cardiac arrhythmias. Potassium is naturally found in the body, and it is unheard of for a man of Glenn's age and shape to have that low of a potassium level. A person would have had to stop drinking water for days, and even then, the potassium level wouldn't have been as low as Glenn's was. He would soon be released with the hospital with a prescription of potassium, and the following day, Kristen said that she didn't like how the nurses treated him, so she wanted to take a sample of blood to work and get it tested, which, in case you were wondering, isn't a thing. The VA or other hospitals don't do that.
You can't just take blood from one place to... Here's my blood. Test it for me.
Yeah, will you guys test this? Yeah, no. So she brought home some equipment from work, and Glenn agreed to let her take his blood. Kristen hooked him up and put a clear liquid, which she said was saline, in the line because she needed to flush the lines. Also, that isn't the thing, because it will mess up the blood sample.
You dilute it after you take the blood.
Yeah.
You flush it after you take the blood. Yeah.
I feel like that's just common sense.
Yeah. But Glenn didn't know this apparently. And I don't know. So Glenn's arm began to get cold and then started hurting, and he tried to push her off of him. She pushed him against the wall and held him there with her hip until she was able to finish.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Glenn ended up passing out, and Kristen just left and went to work, leaving him passed out.
Oh.
She even told a co-worker what happened and was laughing about it. And the co-worker was confused. She's like, "Why are you at work? Why don't you go home and help him?" She's like, "Oh, no, he's fine." She was nonchalant about the whole thing.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
A sincere expression of gratitude to our esteemed patrons. Lynn from Massachusetts, Heather from New Jersey, Chelsea from Utah, Kate from Massachusetts, Margie from Connecticut, Courtney from Massachusetts, Karen from Planet Earth, Amber from Idaho, and Stephanie from Massachusetts for their generous monthly contributions. Their support fuels the engine of our investigative endeavors here at Wicked Wanderings.
You too can become a valued patron and unlock a realm of exclusive content by supporting our mission for as little as $3 a month. Your contribution sustains our commitment to delivering high-quality content.
Visit wickedwanderingspodcast.com and click on the support tab to join the ranks of our dedicated patrons. Your investment not only keeps our podcast thriving, but also ensures that you are at the forefront of our intriguing discoveries with bonus content only available for those patron subscribers.
Thank you for considering this opportunity to deepen your engagement with Wicked Wanderings. Your support is paramount in enabling us to continue our journey into the realms of mystery and true crime. And now, back to the shit show.
Creepy.
So then he dies, and then she's not even suspected of anything, probably, for a really long time.
No, he actually survived. He woke up and was confused. And when Kristen came home, he questioned her about it. And she was like, "Oh, it's no big deal. You just passed out. It happens all the time." And then they didn't talk about it after that. Don't you think you'd be like, "Okay, listen here, bitch"?
Yeah. You're not touching me again.
No. And around that time is when he obviously and hopefully became a little weary of his wife, but he didn't really push it. And they were headed towards divorce anyway. So yeah, that happened in November of 1995. And also in 1995, 35-year-old Henry Houdon was admitted to the VA. He was a frequent visitor to the VA psychiatric ward. He was an Air Force veteran, and he was schizophrenic and had the tendency to leave the VA once he was admitted and his medication kicked in. So on that night, when his mom had received a call, and this was in December, she misunderstood what the doctor was telling her when he said, "Your son is gone." She wasn't alarmed, and she had heard it all before because, this happened. And all she said was, "Fine, thank you for calling," and hung up the phone to get ready to go pick up her son.
Shit.
Because she would just pick him up down the road. So the doctor called her back and said, "Don't hang up," and told her that her son was gone. And she said, "Well, yeah, you said that already. I'll get him food, whatever he needs. I'll get him back to you guys."
Not that gone.
Right. To which the doctor said, "No, I mean he's gone, like dead."
Oh.
First of all, like bedside manner.
Right.
I mean,
Doctors suck at that.
he tried.
I mean, he did.
She just was not having it.
No. You see, Houdon was admitted, and this is what kills me. Houdon was admitted earlier that evening with the flu, and he begged his mom not to be left in the ward. He feared that patients were being killed, which is sad because he was probably dismissed because of his paranoid schizophrenia.
Oh, shit. That's crazy.
Yeah. His sister, in a 1998 news article, said, "We just thought he was ranting, and he was worried about staying there because people were getting killed." Oh, my God. I think he knew. He knew.
Yeah.
Authorities allege it was Gilbert who walked over to Henry's bed before 6 p.m. on December 8, 1995, and poisoned him with epinephrine. Epinephrine is the synthetic chemical twin to adrenaline, the bodily substance that produces the fight or flight mode. For patients suffering from cardiac arrest, epinephrine can be a lifesaver. However, injected into a healthy heart, it can cause anxiety, nervousness, a hike in blood pressure, and cause your heart rate to skyrocket. Houdon went into cardiac arrest at 5:48 p.m. He would suffer 3 more heart attacks before he died at 10 p.m.
Oh, shit.
Oh, no.
So it wasn't quick and painless. It was suffering.
Yeah. And
That's so sad.
he didn't have a history of heart problems at all. He actually had some traumatic brain injury from a fight that he got in when he was at a bar when he was stationed in London that affected him. And that's when he started hearing the voices too, which is interesting. But at the end of 1995, coworkers were starting to grow suspicious of Kristen and why so many patients of hers were dying. So now, by December, the end of 95, Kristen had moved out of her home and found an apartment close to James. And James was 25 at the time and was at her side during every cardiac emergency that she reported to in late 1995 and early 1996. Hospital regulations required security to perform CPR upon doctor's request, so security would have to respond to every code. Witnesses testified that this is ridiculous. Sorry. Witnesses testified that as her patients fought for their lives, Kristen would glance at James, smiling flirtatiously. One witness One witness observed Kristen playing footsie.
Oh, my word.
Like you and Rob do during recordings.
Like, was killing people a turn on for her?
Oh.
You never know.
Fair.
Like, that's what it sounds like.
Well,
that's what it sounds like.
It kind of does, doesn't it? But I think it was like
so gross.
The excitement of the situation, maybe, that and them experiencing it together. And it being a time where he could see her in action or something. I don't know. Some weird twisted.
That's gross.
I mean, I'm glad that we don't understand this because then I would worry.
Right? Very true.
And another witness testified that Gilbert had touched James affectionately during the middle of the code. And there was one time he was giving CPR and she wiped the sweat from his forehead.
Oh, brother.
But
That was nice of her.
but the worst one was she was talking to one of the other nurses about getting like some kind of fancy lacy underwear thing. And the next time this nurse responded to a code, Kristen was on top of the patient doing CPR, like straddling them.
Oh, my word.
And you could see her sexy underpanties.
Ew.
Because her pants. So it was like...
This woman was a piece of work.
I'm telling you.
I really have no words for this.
No, there are none, really. No. The next death that had been linked to Kristen was 41-year-old Kenneth Cutting. And he had MS and had been a patient for the VA for 20 years. The Army veteran was blind, but despite this, he always greeted his visitors with a cheery salutation, remembered his father. He recalled, you'd always get a hello from him. Even though he was blind, he'd say, "Boy, you look good." Isn't that cute? I can picture an old man doing that, but oh my gosh. He's 41 years old. He's my age. So it wasn't an old man. It was someone my age. Until tomorrow.
Flag Day.
Mm-hmm. Kenneth had been admitted on January 26, 1996 for an obstructed bowel and a fever of 104. By February 2nd, 1996, he had been in ICU for 5 days. And guess who just happened to be assigned to the ICU that night? Kristen had a late... Sorry, there's so many things about this case that I'm just like, ugh. Kristen had a late date planned with her haughty police officer. Okay.
He was a security guard.
He wanted to be a police officer.
Well,
A rent-a-cop.
He rent a cop with a gun.
Maybe if he wouldn't date married psycho women.
I don't know how she gets them, though. Seriously. Maybe it's the panties.
is that all it takes?
I guess. So when she went on break at 6 p.m., she asked her supervisor that if Cutting, her only patient that night, died, could she leave early?
What the fuck?
Who the hell does that?
Oh my word.
That's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my lord.
The supervising nurse said, "Oh, yeah, of course." And Miss Angel of Death didn't waste any time. You see, Cutting's status hadn't changed all afternoon. He was stable. But at 7:10 that night, not even an hour after she came back from her break, Cutting suffered a cardiac attack and died. The thing about Cutting, and Kristen most likely knew this as she had been working with him for a couple days, was that Cutting had a DNR.
Oh, shit.
Do not resuscitate. So to me, that meant she had planned this whole thing. She told James before her shift started that she was going to be at his place by 10 p.m. When she usually worked till midnight. Why would she say that if she didn't have a plan?
Right.
Isn't that fucked up?
So fucked up.
Did he know or have any suspicions she was doing all this stuff?
No, he didn't. And even for the longest time when she was eventually caught and like everyone was kind of turning against her, he stood by her for a while.
Oh, wow.
Maybe he just wanted that pussy.
Wanted the pussy. Wanted the kitty kid.
Get that D.
I mean, I don't know what 25-year-old men are like. I mean, I do, but nowadays
That's a weird comment. What do you mean?
25-year-old men, that's just when their prefrontal cortex is fully developed. Maybe his was a little late and he sucked at impulsivity and problem-solving skills.
You're giving him too much credit.
Right?
I mean, if the police academy didn't want him, then...
Not yet. I don't know. Anyway.
I got my baton, baby.
Those hurt. Have you ever
Top
been hit by
32.
those?
I don't know. Have you?
Yeah, I have.
What?
Because I was a cop in the military. We had to train with them, and I accidentally got hit. They fucking hurt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if this was some kind of foreplay thing. Anyways, keep going.
That's for our other podcast.
Right. We have Wicked Wanderings After Dark.
They're never going to want to talk to us again.
Bonus episode.
Oh my God.
Anyways, on from the foreplay. There were a couple of nurses that had noticed the uptick in deaths and during their shift with Kristen. And they had actually noticed a couple of broken epinephrine ampules in the rooms of previous patients when none had been ordered. One nurse noticed that there was also a discrepancy with the epinephrine inventory and was checking the stock before and after every shift. This nurse checked the inventory at the beginning of her shift on February 15, 1996, and there were 3 ampules of epinephrine in the medicine cabinet. A new patient was transferred to Leeds VA on that day. Army veteran Ed Skira had developed a hearty taste for liquor after he was discharged from the Army. He was 68 years old when he arrived at the VA and after some treatment in Adcare Hospital in Worcester. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
I've lived in Massachusetts long enough to know. Worcester. For alcohol abuse. Can't say Worcester and alcohol in the same sentence, apparently.
Quick question for Dark Mysteries. Have you ever seen how Worcester is spelled?
No.
And then try to pronounce it?
It's Worcester.
A lot of people that are not from the Northeast pronounce it Worcester.
Yeah. Like Worcester, I had to ask...
Worcestershire sauce.
Yeah, I had to ask my husband when I moved here how to pronounce that. because I always called it Worcestershire sauce.
I think here everybody says it different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's, that one stuff.
Yeah. Worcestershire sauce. There we go. Not only had Mr. Skira been drinking scotch on a daily basis for 50 years.
Oh my God.
But he was also suffering from diabetes along with several along with several other problems, either directly or indirectly related to his years of alcohol use. When he arrived at the VA, he wasn't feeling very well. And on the ride over, he had experienced some mild chest pain, which he had been experiencing on and off for years. After he was admitted at 2 p.m., Skira was mentally confused and appeared hypotensive. Doctors learned that he had developed some serious cardiovascular problems throughout the years. He suffered from hypertension, coronary artery disease, and more. So he had his fair share of heart problems. They were worried he was having a heart attack. And apparently, I was scared half to death. Just kidding. Anyway, have you guys seen that video with the little redheaded kid?
No.
The apparent... Okay, Google apparently kid after this.
You were just talking about him earlier.
I was. Apparently, heart attacks don't come on suddenly like they do in the movies. And sometimes it's days in the making. And sometimes people didn't even know they have heart attacks.
I've heard that. You start having symptoms several days beforehand. Yeah. And you can prevent it if you know what to look for.
But these men, especially these veterans, don't go to the hospital because they think, oh, I'm a man. I can survive this. I mean, at least
sounds like your husband.
What? No. He is that way. The doctors didn't want to take any chances and admitted Skira to the ICU at 2:30 p.m. where he was sedated and resting comfortably. It was a precautionary measure as his EKG readings were normal, but the doctor wanted to make sure nothing else was wrong. When Kristen arrived at 4 p.m., she had to take Skira to the radiology for a chest x-ray, and then he was returned to his room. The doctor reviewed the CAT scan and thought that there was a possibility of a tear in his aorta. He also noticed that Skira had a bubble in his chest along with low blood pressure, and he was confused, and he thought Skira had a dissecting aortic aneurysm. And the VA wasn't equipped to handle open heart surgery. The doctor was confused that Skira wasn't reporting any pain because the tear in the aorta would have been extremely painful. But they still decided to have him transferred to Bay State Medical Center in Springfield. It was pushing 5 p.m. And keep in mind that he was... Oh, it didn't say when he... Oh, so he was admitted at 2 p.m. So this is within 3 hours of being there. And 1 hour of Kristen being there. So it was pushing 5 p.m. Kristen had called the charge nurse asking him to call the doctor as Skira was reporting chest pain. At 5:07, Kristen called a code and began efforts to resuscitate him. In her notes of the incident, Kristen wrote, "Gone into sudden cardiac arrest for no apparent reason." Nowhere in the note had she written that he had been experiencing chest pain right before he coded. After he coded, the nurse who had been watching Kristen closely went to the medicine cabinet to see if the 3 ampules of epinephrine were still there. She was hoping that they were, but it was empty. Ed Skira died 3 days later at Bay State Medical Center. So the nurses that had been watching Kristen closely finally decided to go to their management with the information that they had been gathering, and an investigation began. Kristen caught wind of it and claimed that a frail patient had grabbed her arm and twisted it behind her back, causing a shoulder injury, and began collecting workers' compensation.
What the fuck?
I don't think a frail patient.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The thing about this is that Kristen was double jointed. According to the book, Perfect Poison, colleagues remember Kristen would pop her shoulder out of socket for a reaction until someone would tell her to pop it back in.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. So either way, if she was faking it or it was a legit injury, she wasn't working, and the death rate on the 4 to midnight shift dropped dramatically.
That's not obvious.
Yeah, right? The investigation made its way to Washington, and not only was there a criminal investigation going on, but there was also an internal investigation exploring the policies and procedures at the VA. Because at that time, there was no accountability for the medication. And there were, well, I'll get into that part later. But while she was out, Kristen kept tabs on the investigation through her boy toy, James, and would ask him who the investigators were talking to and how long and what was said. She also called her other coworkers to find out information. And when she figured out that she was a target, she began to lash out at her coworkers and had a series of admissions to psychiatric hospitals. Now, I am not one to make light of hospitalizations. However, a few of the doctors, so Kristen was evaluated during her hospitalizations and the investigation, and a few of the doctors all questioned the honesty in what she was reporting. And it was determined that she had suffered from 3 disorders: narcissistic personality disorder, obsessive-compulsive personality traits, and antisocial personality disorder, which is the one where a lot of the serial killers are diagnosed with. She lacks empathy and regret. So, I mean, to have 3 personality disorders.
Yeah, that's...
These poor patients didn't stand a chance then.
No, they didn't. They really didn't. The first step in fixing any of these problems is for the patient to stop denying that there is a problem, which Kristen will most likely never do. From one of her hospitalizations at the Holyoke Medical Center, she called James, who had been distancing himself from Kristen. I mean, smart, finally.
Right.
And she said, "You know I did it. I did it. You wanted to know? I killed those guys," and then hung up.
Huh.
And then she called him back and took it back. And was like, "Oh, you know, I wasn't..." Yeah, she was... Yeah. Read the book. Trust me. It's crazy. Or listen to it. It's free on Audible.
Sounds interesting.
Yes. So it is quite obvious that this woman was a little unhinged. And like I said earlier, I wish I could tell you of all the crazy shit that she did during the investigation. But the craziest thing, like I said, was calling a bomb threat. A bomb threat. A bomb...
What's a bomb threat?
A bomb threat. A bomb threat to the VA Medical Center. Now, this wasn't just a bomb threat. This was a series of calls that went on for weeks, and it only happened when James Perrault was working.
Well, that's not suspicious.
It was, yeah. Yeah, the first time she called to see when he would be in, like, the dispatch. And then the calls happened.
Oh, my Lord.
Come on. It was her attempt to derail the murder investigation. Or maybe it was just to fuck with James some more. I don't know. Take your pick.
A little of both.
A little both.
Probably. This bitch went to Toys R Us and bought a talk boy. So have you guys ever seen Home Alone 2?
Yeah.
When he's stuck in New York, that little toy that he was, changing his voice.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was one of, it was
Is that
one
what
of,
they were called? A talk boy?
Yeah. There was a talk girl.
Oh.
And she had actually bought a talk girl first, but it kept malfunctioning.
So was it pink?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Yeah. And then she went back and bought a talk boy.
Which was gray.
And she used these to disguise her voice in the bomb threats. So not only, in the book it gets more in depth, but not only did she make these calls, but she also would call James and say, "Oh my gosh, James, I'm getting threatened by some guy on the phone." So she would then pretend that he was calling her to get attention from James.
Oh my Lord.
Right.
Your face. Yeah.
My face, yeah, because I'm, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, no words.
Yeah.
No words. They were able to identify her, that it was her, by speeding the tape back up and it was her normal voice. So it would slow down her voice and make it sound like a man. And so then they would speed it up and you could hear her voice.
I wonder if she sounded a little manly anyways.
I don't know. But James actually was thinking it was her, and Glenn had heard the recordings because the same cadence of her voice. And they're like, oh, that sounds like Kristen. She was arrested and charged for the false bomb threat and had to serve 18 months.
That's it?
For the bomb threat, yes. Kristen's murder, she was eventually arrested and charged with the murders. Her murder trial started on November of 2000, and she was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder, and 2 counts of attempted murder, and the falsifying the bomb threat. What was interesting about this case is that Massachusetts doesn't have the death penalty. But because these crimes were committed on federal property, it was a federal case, and the death penalty was on the table.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. However...
I was wondering about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. However, the jury decided on life in prison, and she was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms plus 20 years on March 27, 2001. She now resides in the Federal Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas, which is a federal prison for female inmates. However, these are just cases that happened in 1995 and 1996. And after reviewing these ones, we need to go back to when she started at the VA in March of 1989. Like I said, she had built up a reputation as a great nurse, but a black cloud soon began to follow her. As if she was cursed, it seemed like she had the worst luck when it came to her patients. According to M. William Phelps, her patients began to die at unprecedented rates, one after the other, as early as 1990.
Oh, wow. So there's potentially dozens of victims.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Keep in mind, like I said, the other cases were 95, 96. But 51-year-old Lewis Traynor could have been one of her first victims. Traynor was at the VA for long-term treatment. He had his share of mental health problems, but he was in good physical health. He was admitted to Ward C because he was having problems with his esophagus. Many years earlier, he had swallowed Drano in an attempt to kill himself. And as we learned in our second episode, the hi-fi killings, it doesn't kill you but causes a lot of damage. Traynor wasn't able to eat by himself because of the damage from the Drano, so he opted for a feeding tube instead of reconstruction surgery. His condition wasn't life-threatening and only came to the VA for a preventative IV antibiotic treatment. Traynor was schizophrenic and a bit on the irrational side, and he was assigned to Ward C. He began screaming at the top of his lungs, "Oh God, just let me die. Let me die. God, please let me die." But this was actually typical behavior for him. He was delusional and suffered from manic depression, but the nurses knew this about him and they paid little attention to him and would go check on him periodically. Then at one point, as one of the nurses was tending to another patient, she stopped what she was doing and realized that she hadn't heard Traynor yell for some time. She went in to check on him, and he was dead. She checked to see who the nurse was, and it was Kristen. The nurse recalled, "It was weird because there wasn't any reason for him to have died. He wasn't sick." And later she recalled, "It didn't dawn on me that night, but years later, after I got thinking about it, I knew Kristen had something to do with it. She was the only nurse around."
Crazy.
Right? Later that same year, a physician was studying the charts of his patients who had died during the night shifts. He realized that Kristen's name kept showing up repeatedly for a majority of the deaths. By itself, it wouldn't be alarming, but Kristen was alone with the patients at the time of their deaths. And more importantly, most of them were making good progress and weren't expecting to die. After another patient of his died on Kristen's watch, he requested that she not take care of any more of his patients. By the winter of 1991, a clerical worker at the VA who was partly in charge of going through patient death records to ensure their integrity and signing off of their files, She also noticed Kristen's name as the sole nurse who had found a majority of the patients on Ward C in cardiac arrest or dead. In fact, between 1990 and 1991, Kristen's shift alone, there were 31 deaths, which was more than triple than any other shift, and Kristen found 22 herself.
My question is...
Yes.
If all of these people are noticing this suspicious behavior, why didn't someone say something?
Right.
Which is my question, because it was brought up back in 1990 and 1991.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about the structure, the camaraderie between nurses or whatever, that it wasn't until these three nurses that came together and eventually felt like they had a duty for these patients and these victims.
Right.
And in the book mentioned a lot of the nurse like cohesiveness and how they would support each other no matter what.
Because you never want to think it's your coworker doing that.
Mm-mm.
Oh. Are you killing people, Christine?
No. I wouldn't say if I was you.
Are you, Hannah?
Not last time I checked.
But between the years of 1989 and 1996, there were 350 deaths reported at the VA hospital on Kristen's shift.
Holy shit.
And she was present for half of them. The odds of this happening, according to the prosecution of the case, by mere coincidence were 1 in 100 million.
That's insane.
1 in 100 million. So she could have killed 80 plus people. I don't know. And it frustrates me because like you asked, like her name had come up before and nobody had said anything.
I mean, they were suspicious, but just said nothing.
I mean,
yeah.
How many lives could have been saved if just one of the many people had just said one thing?
Exactly. And that's what I was thinking as well, is not only these 4 that we mentioned, and there were some attempted murders that she had poisoned as well, but they survived that I didn't mention.
It just makes me so sad for these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what eventually caught her was they exhumed the bodies and found one victim, there was ketamine in their system, but the other ones were epinephrine. And what sucks is that the families of this case, of some of these victims, were suing the VA medical center. But by the time that they figured out that they had been murdered, the statute of limitations had expired.
That's horrible.
That is
because to get the it was something about the benefits, I can't remember. So if Kristen had been killing people since she started in 1989, it would make her the most prolific serial killer in American history.
Yeah.
And that, my dear wanderers, is the story of Duchette Canoe, Kristen Gilbert.
That was a good one.
It was really good.
Wow.
Yep.
That's intense.
Mm-hmm. Fuck that bitch.
Fuck that bitch.
Exactly.
All right. So every episode, at the end of the episode, we do Massachusetts Unsolved Cases. We have a deck of cards. We go through it, and we just read one card. So since it was Jess's turn, she gets to pick a card. Just tell me when to stop.
Pick a card, any card. This is 9 of Clubs, Jathan or Jay Amador. On September 3rd, 2018, the victim was walking in the area of 17 Brook Street in Lawrence when he was shot and killed. Surveillance footage shows that shots were fired from a silver SUV which fled the area. If you have any information regarding this case, please call 1-855-MA-SOLVE for Jay Amador.
It's so sad that nowadays we still can't solve or find people that do these things.
Right.
That's sad. That wasn't that long ago.
I'm a big fan of the familial DNA.
Definitely.
Technology.
Yes.
Can you imagine having one on your case?
Oh, yeah.
Having that on your case? Or even like any DNA testing from back in the day to see if those were connected.
Yeah.
Check out that wet towel.
Gross.
Find something.
You guys feel free, you guys, to give your spiel.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Where can we find you?
Yeah.
When is it?
We are Dark Mysteries. We're on Spotify, Amazon. We're on YouTube. We're on a lot of different ones. We're not on Apple. That's like the only one we're not on.
Awesome.
So, yeah, go
Check
find
them out.
us.
They're cool chicks.
Yeah. They're our new friends.
You're cool chicks.
Stop. Keep going. Keep going. Just kidding.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. This was fun. I like it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again.
Yes. Maybe in 2 weeks.
Or maybe you come here and we go to the Stanley.
I'm
my
down.
word.
I'm so down.
We're down.
That's great.
Yes.
Okay, I go to Estes Park a lot.
So perfect.
It's my favorite place
You'll
ever.
just be our tour guide.
I've just never stayed there. I've gone there. But I've never stayed there, and that's the best
we're doing
way. The best way to get any paranormal activity is don't do the ghost tour.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do the ghost tour, yes, but get a
Just
room, and when you're less people, you're more likely to get something.
Oh, 100%. I totally agree.
I just got chills. Let's do it. It'd be like going back home, but not going back home. It's weird. I haven't been there in
Right.
years. I moved in 2000, so
I've born and raised here.
I was until I was 18, and then I graduated and I peaced out.
Peace out, Cusco.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
Wanderers.
Bye.
Thanks for listening today.
Wicked Wanderings is hosted by Hannah Fitzpatrick.
And me, Jess Goonan.
And it's produced by Rob Fitzpatrick.
Music by Sasha End.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave us a rating and review.
And be sure to follow us on all our socials. You can find the links down in the show notes.
And if you're looking for some Wicked Cozy t-shirts or hoodies, head over to our merch store.
Thank you for being a part of the Wicked Wanderings community. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Stay curious,
Keep exploring.
and always remember to keep on wandering.
Get ready to rock your style with Wicked Wanderings.
Introducing our brand new merch,
Cozy up in our Wicked hoodies.
or flaunt your vibe in our sweet ass t-shirt.
Join the Wicked Wanderings crew. Explore the mysterious.
And head to our merch store now.
The link is in the show notes below.